Hey, I wanted to come back on and make part two of the martial law video. But I wanted to put out this disclaimer. I watched the other video back about the dream of Maine and Connecticut, and I saw at the end of the dream, I Googled the space from, and the video was Maine to Chicago. I don't know why I put that picture there. I think I was sleepy when I pulled that picture. But I definitely meant Maine and Connecticut. And when I pulled that picture up, it's only like about a 6 hour drive difference between Maine and Connecticut. I'm not really sure. It seemed like each time I Google it, I get a different time. But I don't have the software to go back in and edit out any mistakes or anything like that. So I'm just trying to correct it here in this disclaimer to let you guys know that it was definitely Maine and Connecticut, and those two places are not that far from each other. So that's where I believe that the dream was trying to show me that the lockdown will probably kick off in those two locations, and they're not even very far apart from one another. So, with that being said, let's get into martial law and FEMA and see what do the two have to do one to another, and why was that dream so important? Because I believe that dream was really important. I believe it was giving us a lot of strong information if we know what we're looking for. So we'll come here and we see FEMA. And the question is, what is FEMA? Some of you may not even know what that means, what it is, and what do it have to do with martial law. Well, let's get into the video and see if we can connect the two. So it says, what is the Federal Emergency Agency? That's FEMA. Simply put, it is the secret government. This agency has power and authority that go well beyond any other agency in the nation. What can FEMA do? It can suspend laws. It can move entire population. It can arrest and detain citizens without a warrant and can hold them without a trial. It can seize property, food supplies, and transportation systems. And it can even suspend the Constitution of the United States. That's way too much power for a federal emergency agency, if you ask me. That's what FEMA stands for, Federal Emergency Agency. Oh, I say, so when they first came out, they meant to be there for disasters, earthquakes, floods, wars, things like that. But somewhere along the lines, FEMA, I think they branched off into a more darker theme. It says the secret black helicopters that are reported throughout the U.S., mainly in the West, California, Washington, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and Colorado areas are flown by FEMA personnel. It has been given the responsibility for many new national disasters such as forest fires, home heating, emergencies, refuge situations, riots, and emergency planning for nuclear and toxic incidents. It works together with the Sixth Army in the West. All right, so it says a series of executive orders was used to create FEMA. It does not matter whether an executive order is constitutional. Are you hearing that? Like, it don't matter if it's constitutional or not. If they say it, it goes. It says or not. It becomes a law simply by being published in the Federal Registry. These orders go around the Congress. It says there are over 800 prison camps in the United States, all fully operational and ready to receive prisoners. They are all staffed and even surrounded by full-time guards, but they are all empty. These camps are to be operated by FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, should martial law need to be implemented. And there you have the connection with FEMA and martial law. So should martial law need to be implemented in the United States, and all it would take is a presidential signature on a proclamation and the Attorney General's signature on a warrant to which a list of names is attached. Ask yourself if you really want to be on Ashcroft's list. It says the Rex 84 program was established by the reasoning that if a mass exodus of illegal aliens crossed the Mexican-U.S. border, they would be quickly rounded up and detained in detention centers by FEMA. Rex 84 allowed many military bases to be closed down and turned into prisons. Operation Cable Splicer and Garden Plot are the two sub-programs which will be implemented once the Rex 84 program is initiated for its proper purpose. Garden Plot is a program to control the population. Cable Splicer is the program for an orderly takeover of the state and local governments by the federal government. FEMA is the executive arm of the coming police state and thus will head up all operations. The presidential executive orders already listed on the Federal Register also are part of the legal framework for this operation. The camps all have railroad facilities as well as roads leading to and from the detention facilities. Many also have an airport nearby. The majority of the camps can house a population of 20,000 prisoners. Currently, the largest of these facilities is just outside of Fairbanks, Alaska. The Alaskan facility is a massive mental health facility and can hold approximately 2 million people. Now let's review the justification for any actions taken. Executive orders associated with FEMA that would suspend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. These executive orders have been on record for nearly 30 years and could be enacted by the stroke of a presidential pen. Executive Order 1090 allows the government to take over all modes of transportation and control of highways and seaports. Remember, I kept dreaming about roadblocks and all that kind of stuff? It says, let's go up here. It says, it says, executive orders associated with FEMA that will suspend the Constitution. Okay, we did that one. Executive Order 10995 allows the government to seize and control the communication media so they can take over the news. Executive Order 10997 allows the government to take over all electrical power, gas, petroleum, fuels, and minerals. Executive Order 10998 allows the government to seize all means of transportation, including personal cars. They can take our cars, trucks, or vehicles of any kind, and total control over all highways, seaports, and the waterways. That's a lot of power. Executive 10999 allows the government to take over all food resources and farms. We won't even be able to allow to farm if they don't want us to. All the grocery stores, they can take over everything. Executive Order 11000 allows the government to mobilize civilians into work brigades under government supervision so they can enslave us to work, and we have to do it. It says Executive Order 11001 allows the government to take over all health, education, and welfare functions. Executive Order 1111002 designates the Postmaster General to operate a national registration of all persons. Executive Order 11003 allows the government to take over all airports and aircraft, including commercial aircraft. Executive Order 11004 allows the Housing and Finance Authority to relocate communities, build new housing with public funds, designate areas to be abandoned so they can move everybody out of an area if they wanted to, and establish new locations for populations so they can relocate us. Executive Order 11005 allows the government to take over railroads, inland waterways, and public storage facilities. All right, let's keep going. Executive Order 11051 specifies the responsibility of the Office of Emergency Planning and gives authorization to put all executive orders into effect in times of increased international tensions and economic and financial crisis, so that they can institute this at any time. It says Executive Order 11049 assigns emergency preparedness functions to federal departments and agencies, controlling 21 operative executive orders issued over a 15-year period. Executive Order 11921 allows the Federal Emergency Preparedness Agency to develop plans to establish control over the mechanisms of production and distribution of energy sources, wages. This is our money on your job, salaries, credit, and the flow of money in the U.S. It says financial institution in any undefined national emergency. It also provides that when a state of emergency is declared by the president, Congress cannot review. Wow, Congress cannot review the action for 6 months. The Federal Emergency Management Agency has broad powers in every aspect of the nation. General Frank, whatever that is, Salindu, Chief of FEMA's Civil Security Secretary Division, stated in a 1983 conference that he saw FEMA's role as a new frontier in the protection of individual and government leaders from assassinations and civil and military installations, from sabotage and or attack, as well as prevention of dissident groups from gaining access to U.S. opinion or a global audience in times of crisis. FEMA powers were consolidated by President Carter to incorporate the National Security Act of 1947. This allows for the strategic relocation of industries, services, government, and other essential economic activities, and to rationalize the requirements for manpower, resources, and production facilities. 1950 Defense Production Act gives the president sweeping powers over all aspects of the economy. Act of August 29, 1916 authorizes the Secretary of the Army in time of war to take possession of any transportation system for transporting troops, material, or any other purpose related to the emergency. International Emergency Economic Power Acts enables the president to seize the property of a foreign country or national. These powers were transferred to allow for the strategic relocation of industry, services, governments, and other essential economic activities, and to rationalize the requirements for manpower, resources, and production facilities. 1950 Defense Production Act gives the president sweeping powers over all aspects of the economy. Act of August 29, 1916 authorizes the Secretary of the Army in times of war to take possession of any transportation system for transporting troops, material, or any purpose related to emergency. And then you can see right there, it says, what's the next concentration camps people will start to boycott? It says, President Reagan signed Presidential Directive number 44 in April of 1984 that allowed FEMA to activate a secret national readiness exercise. This exercise was given the code name Rex 84. The purpose of the exercise was to test FEMA's ability to assume military authority. Rex 84 was so highly guarded that special metal doors were installed on the 5th floor of the FEMA building in Washington, D.C. Now, notice a lot of stuff be going down in Washington, D.C. Remember all the games that they was playing? The food game went down in Washington, D.C. The biowarfare game for the germ game for smallpox and monkeypox went down in Washington, D.C. And this should not take nobody by surprise, because the streets of Washington, D.C. is a pentagram. A pentagram, the all-seeing eye, all kind of that stuff is built into the streets. So it shouldn't take nobody by surprise that this stuff is going on in Washington. It says the only people that were allowed to enter the premises were ones who had a red Christian cross on their shirt. The exercise required the following: Suspension of the Constitution of the United States. Turning control of the government over to FEMA. Appointment of military commanders to run state and local governments. Declaration of martial law. Here's what I have found so far, and we will continue to update this list. For now, check out your state. Be sure to include the address of the facility. The photos below are from the Nebraska facility. So, what this gentleman did who did this article, he went and found out all of the concentration camps that FEMA have all over the world. And he said it's 800 of them. So, he got a list of the cities and the states that they're in. It says, so where are these camps? If you're in Alabama, Opelika military compound, either in or very near town. Aliceville, World War II German prison of war camp, capacity 15,000. Fort McClellan, Anniston, opposite side of town from Army Depot. Maxwell Air Force Base. Civilian prison camp established under Operation Garden Plot, currently operating with support staff and small inmate population. Talladega Federal Prison Satellite Camp. In Alaska, they said they have one in the wilderness east of Anchorage, no roads or air and railroad access only. It said no roads, air and railroad access only. Estimated capacity is 500,000. It says Elamdorf Air Force Base, northeast area of Anchorage, far end of the base, Garden Plot facility. Ellison Air Force Base, southeast of Fairbanks, Operation Garden Plot facility. Fort Wainwright, east of Fairbanks, Arizona. It says Fort Haas, I don't know what that is, 20 miles from Mexican border, 30 miles from the Nogales Rex 84 facility. Pinal County on the Gila River. It's a World War II Japanese detention camp, may be renovated. Yuma County, completely removed in 1990 according to some reports. Phoenix, Federal Prison Satellite Camp, main federal facility expanded. Florence, World War II prison camp, now renovated, operational with staff and 400 prisoners, operational capacity of 3,500. Wickenburg Airport is ready for conversion, total capacity unknown. Davis Mountain Air Force Base, fully staffed and presently holding prisoners. Sedona, site of possible UN base. If you live in Arkansas, these are where they saying the bases are. I'm just going to hold the screen so you can read it. Maybe you want to pause the screen, and that's probably going to go a whole lot faster than me reading all of these, so I don't want the video to run long. But if you live in these areas, you can do your research and see what is there. A lot of these places are government facilities, so you wouldn't be able to get by them without some type of security coming to get you and see what are you doing in that area. So this is if you're in California. We're going to go on over. California has a lot of facilities there. A lot of facilities. You can pull this up yourself if you want to check that out. If you're in Colorado and Connecticut. Now, remember in the dream I was in Connecticut. I kept saying I live in Connecticut and Maine. It was saying here in Connecticut, they don't have no available data if there's a concentration, a prison camp, a FEMA prison camp there. But in Colorado, Trinidad, World War II, German, Italian camp, Florida has several. Avon Park Air Force Gunnery Range. Okay, Georgia, Fort Brennan. And Georgia has a lot of them. It said this FEMA prison has no staff and no prisoners. One of those. I'm going to go to the next one. I'm gonna, to make sure that I'm getting everybody's state before we end this video. Hawaii. Idaho. I'm going to screen up so you can see it. Illinois. Some of these they saying got prisoners in them already. Some of them they saying fully functional, but they don't have no prisoners in them. They said some of these are under renovation, but they're up and running and ready to go. This is if you live in Indiana, you might want to check your city and see if it's on the list for these prisoner facilities where they can hold you indefinite if they chose to. Let me see. I see something underneath that. I don't know where Unicor is. Oh, Ohio, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine. Now, Maine was my dream, and they have one there in Maine, in Houghton. World War II German intermittent camp in northern Maine off U.S. Route 1. If you're in Maryland and D.C., they have some there. It says that's a biological warfare center for the New World Order located in Frederick if you're in Maryland and D.C. Wow. All right, Massachusetts. Maryland and D.C., Massachusetts, Camp Edwards, Otis Air Force Base, Cape Cod, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska. I'm going to go slow in case y'all want to pause it. $800 facilities up and ready to go. So if you ask me, is FEMA your friend? And should you go to a FEMA camp in a time of emergency? I'm going to tell you absolutely not. Unless you want to walk yourself right up into one of these camps just to get a piece of bread. That's on you. I personally would not do it myself. Nevada, New Hampshire, Vermont, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota. I actually went to the one in North Dakota. I moved down there in 2015. I was only down there for a little while. So I actually laid my eyes on that one. So I know that base is definitely there. And it's connected to its own airport there. Ohio, Camp Perry. The site is renovated, once used as a prisoner of war camp to house German and Italian prisoners of World War II. Some tar paper covers hut built for housing these prisoners are still standing. So there you have it. Let's keep going. Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas. Texas has a lot of them. I'm in Texas. Texas have one of the most. It's the biggest, one of the biggest lists. It's Texas, Utah, Virginia, West Virginia, Washington, Wisconsin, Wyoming, and other locations in the United States. There may be other locations that are not listed above. He said he would have needed to take time to verify them and approve them, and he didn't have time to do that. So Canada. So there you have it, people. Is these camps already set up? They are set up. They are active and they are already ready to go. They're just waiting for the government to stamp that paper and say, hey, declare martial law, and they can start detaining people without no reason. They could do it just because they want to do it, and they can hold you indefinitely if they chose to do it. These are what they call their re-education centers, which Hillary Clinton was made mention of when she was trying to get reelected. She called them adult re-education centers. That's something you could Google for yourself and see if that's true. Before I end this video, I want you to see that they had, so I think I said Hawaii, Canada, and that's going to be it. So that's very important. Martial law, they just set to go. They have a lot of power. They can do almost anything they want to do at this point. I hope this video blessed you to help you where to look. In Jesus' name, be blessed. Amen.